Welcome to abombtozzzax. With me, Colin Hoult. And my friends Dan Snellgrove and Jamie Firth. Here they come! Hello again. Welcome to abombtozzzax, my favourite Marvel character, where I, Colin Hoult, am on a journey through every single Marvel character there is. I'm finding out about them. I'm talking to my friends about them. I'm rating them in a big list. If you've never heard of these Marvel characters, you can learn a lot. If you have heard about them, you can laugh along and enjoy how silly or wonderful or divine they are. Are any divine? Angela, maybe. Yeah, Angela is divine. So as you could tell, I have a wonderful way with words. I am actor and comedian Colin Hoult and lover of Marvel Comics since I was a little boy. And with me today, dear Nick Krik, aka Nick Krik. Hello, Nick.
Hello, A-bombers. Oh, no, actually, I don't like that now I've said it.
Oh, that was nice. A-bomb. Well, is it nice? A-bombs are not nice.
Ooh, I don't like it. Zzzaxes?
Yeah,
Zzzaxes?
When I was, without going on too much of a divergence, when I was Zzzaxes, that's quite fun. When I was a boy, my mum took me to a cowboy club. I'm going to, this is in my head a lot at the minute because I'm trying to write a film about it. But me and my mum would go to the cowboy club, which was a lot of drunk people dressed as cowboys dancing in Nottingham above the co-op on a Saturday night. It was very weird. So they did a thing called the shootout, where two men would get up and get their pistols. They had real guns, which I don't think they get away with now, with blanks, but still real guns. They get up and they'd fire them at each other back to back, 3 paces, whatever, turn around and fire 10 paces, whatever it is. And someone would judge who won. But what I always loved was the guy who ran the club always used to go, now, just to point out, just because we are using guns, we do not promote violence. Violence is not a good thing. And then they do the shootout. So I like the idea that every episode we have to do a long explanation that just because this show is called abombtozzzax and you are the A-bombers, we don't think A-bombing is good. A-bombing or A-bombing or any bomb. We are anti-bombs. Okay, the A stands for anti. Great. I mean, this show's had some poor introductions before, but that takes the biscuit. So we have now, Nick, believe it or not, between you, me, Dan, and Jamie, we have read, reviewed, and talked about 48 characters.
That's
ranging
impressive.
That's quite a lot, isn't it? Ranging from the top of the pops, Mr. Magneto himself, down to the very bottom, the worst of all time, a character called King Bedlam. And there's some crossover in some ways with the characters we're about to talk about today. So normally we go from A to Z. We're still in the A's. We're going to be the A's forever. We're now on a character called Anthem. What I'm currently doing is week to week, swap it over. So we go, 1 week is the next in the list, A to Z. Then we do characters from the Thunderbolts because the movie's coming out. Because I know some people who listen want to hear all the obscure, weird characters. And some people, presumably, if you exist, want to hear about Wolverine and Spider-Man. So we're covering all bases. And if you want to help us in our journey and keep this ship afloat, please think about giving £1 or £2 to patreon.com/abombtozzzax. Check how you spell it before you do it. I can't remember, and I'll probably say it wrong. On there, we have the full order, not this order we're talking about today, but we have the list of the top characters that we've done. We explain all the comics we've read so you can read along with us, and you have the chance to join us and give us a character you want us to talk about next. There we go. That was well said, wasn't it? Let's move on.
I like that. That was
Thank
nice.
you. Thank you. Plus, there's some bonus bits. There we go. So this week, the next character in the A to Z is called Anthem. I'd never heard of this character. He is part of a group called The Order. Had you heard of The Order, Nick, or Anthem?
No, not at all. I had to look them up, and I was reading the storylines around this time, and I'm surprised that I didn't come across this one at all.
Yeah. Well, yes, so was I. I was reading a lot of the storylines at the time. And I remember them existing and thinking I want to read that. But there was so many at that point. I think at that point I was working in a call center. It was around Civil War, it's post-Civil War stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm going to give a bit of context to explain what's going on here. So there's an event called Civil War. There's a movie called Civil War as well, Captain America Civil War, which kind of roughly does the same idea. But what happened was the New Warriors, who were a group of teenage superheroes at that point doing a reality show, obviously a comment of at the time, 2004 or something, they accidentally cause a villain to explode and destroy most of a town, including a school. It's very graphic, very unpleasant. Anyway, it leads to a civil war between Iron Man, Captain America. Iron Man believes in everyone being registered. Captain America believes we should all just run around shooting people or whatever, presumably. I don't know. Iron Man was clearly right, but somehow Captain America seemed right. It was...
Yeah.
It's actually, I always make these things political, but it's not far off the argument at the minute, is it, really? You've got your Republicans' libertarian idea. Let's just blow everything up. Every man should have the freedom to do whatever he wants. And on the other side, you got, we need to have a state and, civilization exists for a reason. Rules exist for a reason.
Yeah, I think the main difference reading Civil War now is like Captain America, his libertarian, do whatever you want, government shouldn't interfere view is portrayed as like a desirable thing. Whereas now it feels like we've had a lot of years of people doing that and it's not necessarily good.
Well, we've got 4 more years to come, so let's find out. Yeah. Right. We've got to get onto the order. We'd have time to. There's a lot to discuss there. Well, I think we should do, because Captain America Brave New World, is that what it's called? Is coming out soon. So I think we should do Captain America maybe next week. Maybe that's the next, as in we'll do Cap and we'll do Falcon. Yeah, finally. I think it's very, very important at this time to discuss Captain America. So, at the end of Civil War, Iron Man wins. He creates a thing called the 50 State Initiative, which is rather than all the superheroes being stuck in New York, as they always have been, pretty much, apart from the Hulk, who walks around Arizona, I think, a bit. Every state is going to have its own team of superheroes. I wonder whether they ever actually got round to working out who they were. I don't know if they did. I don't
remember seeing like a list, but...
Yeah, you just see like the Texas ones, which were like, I remember was Armadillo, Shooting Star, Texas Twister, the Texas one, Cowboys basically, and a big armadillo. They were Texas. Red Wolf probably, and then, but you didn't really see any of the other ones. Anyway, this is all created by controversial edgelord type writer Mark Miller. Is it right to call him an edgelord? Do you think? Is that a bit?
I think so. Some of his stuff is done to push buttons. Some of the comics he writes are very much, what if Batman was even more ultra violent?
Yeah, and it's like trying to be Alan Moore in it to some degree, would you say, but not having Alan Moore's sheer genius, breadth of knowledge and understanding. Oh, my wife just texted me. It's an Adidas vest. I don't know what that refers to. Maybe it's in relation to the show. So, Mark Miller creates, he does the whole Civil War thing. And he's fun. He does push the buttons. He makes it exciting and like, oh, wow, I can't believe they're doing that. He's smashing everything up. He's Trumpian in many ways. But after that, Iron Man's in charge of everything, of sort of like the government, it feels, doesn't it, almost? He's
Yeah,
not
he's
actually.
director of Shield at this point.
He's director of Shield, Tony
Yeah.
Stark. So you got these 50 states, and one of them is California. Used to be the West Coast Avengers. Why don't they just make the West Coast Avengers? I don't know. Within Civil War, they create a thing called the Order. Now, originally, the idea is meant to be that they are based on Greek heroes, Achilles, Ares, that kind of thing. And it was also the idea, which is very Mark Miller, that they're all celebrities. Both two bad ideas. I mean, you've already got Hercules and all them as characters anyway.
Yeah.
Plus, you've got the Incredible. In the Incredible Hulk, there's a thing called the Pantheon, which are also called Achilles, Ajax, blah blah blah. So, anyway, and a writer called Matt Fraction comes along and writes The Order, which is a 10-issue maxi series. Can we call it that? About this group, The Order, who are California's superheroes, California's government-sponsored, celebrity-based superheroes. Weird. Right, so today we're going to talk about 5 characters and the group itself, because they're all just one thing. You don't find these characters anywhere else, I don't think. We're going to talk about Anthem, Calamity, Veda, Supernaut, and Mulholland Black. It's quite a random mix of characters, isn't it? These are the ones who are all on the characters list on Marvel Unlimited. That's why I picked these guys. Okay, let's hear it, Nick. What's your my first review? I'm just going to say, very boring.
Yeah, it's I think it's a real waste. It's a wasted opportunity. I think there's lots of stuff in there that could have been interesting, and they somehow managed to make it really dull. And I think it's stuff that was being done in other comics better. So there's things like there's a framing device where a lot of the issues are them being interviewed, the individual characters being interviewed by someone. I think they did that in Thunderbolts as well, with Norman Osborn in charge, and that was a lot more interesting because he's a much more interesting character.
It's obviously come from The Office, hasn't it? That
Yeah, that's a good point.
That thing where they're being chat. Yeah, they're doing talking heads basically.
But none of the characters are that interesting. It feels like he's trying really hard, and it's laudable. He's trying really hard to have like a genuinely diverse group. So one of the characters is a paraplegic. One of them also can't walk for a different reason. One of them can't breathe without a sort of special fluid in his lungs. It feels like he's trying to make some effort at having people with like different abilities in the first place, rather than just here's another group of mostly white men and one woman.
Yes.
So
Although X-Men did that much better in 1975, didn't it? But
it feels like it's trying almost too hard to do that at the expense of creating interesting characters.
yeah, but the characters feel like, it feels to me like he's really doing a script writing essay or an improv hot seating thing. So all the characters have a sort of thing we recognize and then a slight twist.
Yeah.
So for example, I think we could just jump around all these characters because you know they're all kind of one. So you've got one called Veda. I don't know why she's called Veda for a start. I googled it. It's. I thought as much. It's a like Hindu poems. There's no reason why. I couldn't work out why that. I'm not. Is she Indian? Maybe she was. I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so. If she was, they'd done a bad sort of job and like coloring into to make that obvious.
Right. Yeah. There's no. But they take it. Oh no, she actually says who she is, because she says there's some really elaborate, unnecessary thing where like her dad was Korean, but her mum was Brazilian. I don't know. It's weird.
Yes, you're right, because they make a big deal about her having like Brazilian forenames and a sort of German.
Brazilian and German, that was it. But there's so much information. The characters tell you so much about their lives, and none of it is that interesting. It is like when you do script writing and you create a character. Do you know what I mean? You go, okay, so their age is this. You know, they're from this place. They do. Okay, so what about if? So with Veda, she is an actress. No, what's it? She started out as an orphan.
Yeah,
Um,
she's a model,
she's an
and
orphan who became a model, and but she. Oh no, that's it. She did taekwondo.
yeah,
So she's a model. She became a model, then became an actress who could do taekwondo. So it says some lines like, "So obviously I hit the top really quickly" or something.
yeah.
Like as it, but
Like,
actually,
because everyone wants an actress that can do their own stunts. I'm
it
like, do they?
yeah. Yeah, it was like kind of like so I've hacked the system and so but then she sort of becomes she's obsessed with orphans.
Yeah,
Keeps talking about orphans. And then she creates these charities, and it turns out the only reason she's doing acting, the only reason she wants to be this acting celebrity is so she can help more orphans.
yeah,
It's
and
really
yeah,
weird. It's really, I mean, like, yeah, good on you, Veda. But it's just an odd series of. It's like you got okay, so but why does she want to be an actress? It can't just be. We can't just have the character who is like a sassy, a self-centered. Which is what Mark Miller would do. Actually, if you had an actress character, she'd just be awful, wouldn't she? And be
yeah,
like, constantly on her phone and like talking about her age and worried about her looks and all that. Whereas he's gone, okay, she's that, but actually she loves orphans. She just wants to help all, which I thought maybe it's meant to be Angelina Jolie. Was she particularly got
maybe she would
that
have
feel to
been.
it a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, she would have been about that time that she was starting to do things like adopting kids from other countries. So it probably
And
would have
also
been.
like UN, she did a lot of UN,
Yeah,
World
but
Health
I feel you.
Organization.
I think you're right talking about twists. It feels like he's wanted to go. Um, oh, here's your stereotypical model type, but she's only a model so that she can make loads of money to give to charity to the orphans. You weren't expecting that, were you?
Feels like a writing exercise, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
really. And they
similarly with
also, sorry, go on.
the paraplegic who finds the guy who runs him over and causes him to lose his legs.
Mm.
He greets him holding a baseball bat, and then later on, when one of the other characters goes to find him with this guy who's caused the loss of his legs, they're just playing Wii because the character's reasoning is, oh, I was going to beat him up, but actually his life's quite sad, so we just played Wii. You weren't expecting that, were you? It's
That's
just a lot of that. It's
it does. It's never satisfying, isn't it?
no,
And also that's kind of nicked from Swingers. The bit where they're in a fight, and then you think they're gonna have this big fight with these guys, and then it cuts to them playing
yeah,
Mega Drive. I think it was then.
yeah,
Yeah, but fair enough. I mean, I thought that was a nice-ish twist because his issue ends with him outside the trailer of the guy who ran him over holding a baseball bat, and that's how it ends. You go, ooh, and then the twist is actually they play. But it's
yeah.
still, yeah, it's just too many words and
Yeah,
like
I like the
information, just
twist.
information overload.
I think you're right. I agreed. I liked that it wasn't the obvious thing of him just beating him up, but just the way it was done felt weirdly unsatisfying.
It
I know.
really did, didn't it?
It
Maybe it
just
was
was
where it's
delivered in.
placed. So this
Yeah,
is Matt Fraction, who does go on to write he wrote Hawkeye, which is great, isn't it?
yeah. I love
The
his run on Hawkeye. It's brilliant. Really, really
brilliant.
enjoyed it. Really
So I
enjoyed it.
guess, like, I don't want to sit here bloody 20 years later slagging off someone's work, but it's like, I guess this is him finding his feet.
Yeah,
He's copying his heroes. There's Grant Morrison here. There's Warren Ellis. There's Mark Miller. Do you know what I mean? He's playing. The Ultimates has come out.
yeah,
Authority has come out. It's very much in those vein.
yeah,
The Ultimates and Authority. I'm trying to make this a bit more like for people who've never read comics as well, or haven't read these comics. But the Ultimates and the Authority were real game changers. The Authority was the first, and that had the idea of superheroes going after the real bastards. That's one, so they actually take down dictators and stuff like this.
yeah. It was
And
what if they actually used their powers to change the world for the better, which
yeah,
is what's always asked. Why doesn't Superman just get rid of the dictators? And the Authority was a comic that said, well, actually, yeah, let's just have a team that goes in and kicks the dictator out.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. And it was good fun. It was well
Yeah,
done. It was
yeah,
exciting at the time. I've never been that much. It was Warren Ellis who wrote it. I've never been that much. I've always found his writing kind of irritating, if I'm honest, in that glib way. Mark
yeah,
Miller, the same. But at the time reading them, it was so like bold and exciting and sort of satisfying.
yeah.
Now
Yeah.
it feels kind of horrible, maybe, but it was still, but this feels so. So, for example, the other thing it made me think of was Ecstatics or X Force,
I
which
was
is
going to say that.
fantastic, which is really funny.
Yeah.
So that's where X Force got taken over by Peter Milligan. We'll talk about it properly when we get to it, but and suddenly the artwork is Mike Allred, so it's this beautifully cartoon-like artwork, very 60s psychedelic-y style, I guess you'd say, or sort of Roy Lichtenstein-y a bit, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Pop art, definitely.
Pop art, yeah. But what happens is X Force, which was much beloved by X Force fans, suddenly all just get kicked off the team. They don't even die or anything. This company, I think, just buys the rights to the name X Force and then creates their own X Force, who are literally, it's done like Survivor or Big Brother, where they're just people who with powers who are just sent into Warzone, but it's all filmed. And
it's all
really
just celebrity
funny.
culture, and it's all
and
about.
in that they are arseholes, aren't they? They're like absolutely brain dead, self-centered, idiotic characters, and it's really funny and surprisingly moving.
Yeah.
And you totally buy into it. But famously, the first issue has this team go into action, and you meet this whole team, and then it goes a bit wrong. They're fighting these terrorists, who have hostages, and they invade this terrorist enclave, and it goes a bit wrong, and they all just get obliterated. And it's really funny, isn't it? It's so dark but so funny. And then literally from issue 2, we start with a completely new team. This does the same thing, and it starts with Anthem, who is the leader. We'll go more into characters in a minute, I guess, but he has his team of they're already heroes, is the idea. So they're already celebrities or war heroes, or that's about it, isn't it?
They're already known somehow
people
in the public eye.
Yeah. But basically they fight some baddies. Afterwards, 4 of them go out to celebrate, get really drunk, cause some carnage on the town, but not in an Ultimates, they don't eat people or blow up a building or anything like in the Ultimates. They just get drunk and make fools of themselves. So they're all fired and replaced by, because apparently there's a whole building of people waiting to join this team. And we'll get into the logic of that, I guess. But that to me, I was just went, you've just done Ecstatics, but taken all the bite out of it.
Yeah.
It's not funny. It's not shocking. They're not even dead. They've just been fired. You just say okay. And I'm like, who is this for? Because it's not for your older reader or your teenage reader who is wanted a bit of violence and action and stuff. But it's still too wordy and dull to be for younger readers, as in, we'll just make it that they get fired because it's like a younger reader version of Ecstatics. No, it's just very tedious.
And also, if it is supposed to be for younger readers, there's just a lot of stuff around corporate things and building regulations and just things that wouldn't be of interest to anyone younger. I wrote the exact same note. Who is this comic for? Because it's also, the comic itself it's sort of a bit related to Iron Man. So Iron Man's in it. Anthem, the main one we talked about at the start, is like a former actor who used to play Tony Stark and hang out with him and get drunk. So they've sort of already made him a sort of weak knockoff Tony Stark, sort of deliberately.
That's so weird, and it's all so creepy. There's this whole so every issue starts with one of the characters doing a talking head, introduce themselves, and then ends with the kind of twist thing or whatever. Oh, and the twist, by the way, with Veda, the orphans thing, the twist at the end is I can never have children myself, so I am helping all these children, which I guess at the time felt like that's a really worthy, good thing to put, but now just feels cack-handed, doesn't it? That feels like, really, we're going there? Do you have authority to? I don't know. I'm not saying a writer can't write that, but that's quite a sensitive thing to throw out as a kind of
very clumsy. It's very clumsily done.
Oh, she can't have children. So obviously everyone who can't have children spends all their money and time helping orphans. Because then they're her children. And her power, by the way, is to create golems out of earth, who, like soldiers out of earth, who attack people. but they're sort of her children, is how she sees it. There was one bit where one of them gets destroyed and she feels it, which I thought, oh, that's almost interesting.
Yeah. And then they don't really mention that again.
It never comes back.
But it's a similar thing with Anthem. At the start, they talk about him being, he plays Tony Stark, he hangs around with Tony Stark, he's an alcoholic like Tony Stark, so they go through rehab together. And I was like, that's quite a nice touch. And they talk about that in the first few issues, and then by the end, they've sort of ignored all of that. It's a similar thing. They sort of mention it a few times at the start, and then by the end, it's like, yeah, we've kind of forgotten a lot of that stuff.
It's kind of it's like a sketch idea, isn't it? Yeah. It's sort of funny. What about the actor who plays Tony Stark in the Tony Stark TV show? But then you go, okay, so he plays Tony Stark, but then he ended up hanging out with Tony Stark. And there's this whole thing about how they like bang every actor turned waitress in the city.
Yeah, that was creepy.
It's really creepy and very like Wolf of Wall Street. You know what I mean? It was like, ugh, it's really grubby. Yeah. But then I guess at the time, it's so funny how like just 12 years ago, whatever, feels like so dated in terms of that kind of stuff, isn't it? How quickly that. But anyway, they both got the Tony Stark moustache, which is kind of a funny gag, I guess.
Yeah.
But then he becomes an alcoholic as well, and then because in case you didn't know, Iron Man in the comics is an alcoholic, so Iron Man becomes his sponsor. But then as a character, so dull, because he's the most boring Cyclops-like Cyclops without having any of the stuff that makes Cyclops interesting. He's just kind of telling everyone off all the time and stressed and occasionally thinking about booze.
Yeah, in the first 3 issues, and then he doesn't think about it in the later ones because they've given up on that.
What's his symbol on his chest as well? It feels like they're trying to do a sort of Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen, but it's a circle as in order, but then it's got like a sort of weird, well, it looks like the new USB port. That's his symbol.
Maybe they used that.
He's called Anthem. I assumed he would like scream like Angar the Screamer, or like he'd rock out.
I didn't really...
Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, he'd use it somehow to... Do you know what I mean? He'd somehow use sound. But his powers, I mean, talk about vague powers. It's just like...
The names are terrible. The names are terrible for all of them. The names are just sort of meaningless for each of them. I didn't really get any... So
there's Calamity.
What their names were. Yeah.
Calamity is just... Okay, so his real name is James Wan. Isn't that the director of Saw?
Yeah.
So you've just given him that name.
Also, he's just the Flash basically again as well.
He's just the Flash,
just
but in a
fast.
really rubbish costume, white, sort of bizarre. Looks very weird. Why is he called Calamity? No reason, is there? Because Calamity doesn't mean fast.
It's something to do with his in his talking head bit at the start. He was like a big baseball guy, and it was a nickname he got from always diving into stuff in baseball, I think, was where that came from, and so he's kept that nickname.
Oh, so he's kind of reckless.
Yeah,
but that isn't what. But Calamity means like clumsy, disastrous.
Yeah.
He's got metal legs as well from but even that feels a bit cack-handed. Do you know what I mean? It's all a bit.
It's like we were saying earlier. It's like, oh, he's lost his legs, but he's the one that can run really fast. Yeah. Okay.
When you said about one of them's paraplegic, one of them's the legs, I thought you were going just like everyone has a different level of how they can walk within the group. That's the spectrum of the group. It all feel, I guess, well-meaning, but actually cack-handed. Yeah. It feels like those TV shows, sort of sci-fi, you know, there's all the Netflixy ones and stuff you watch, and a lot of them just feel like, oh, that and this make that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Just like, what about that? But he's that.
Yeah, we put these together, and that hits the demographic that will watch this.
Yeah, without really sitting down and thinking about what that would mean.
Yeah.
What that might mean, or what's an interesting direction for that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Calamity.
I feel like this is one of those series where like Matt Fraction has probably been told to write to order on this. Like
the order.
Yeah, he's right to the order. Yeah. But I get the feeling.
Why are they called the order as well? That doesn't come up.
No. I
They're in
didn't understand.
California. They should be called something like the Surfers
Yeah.
or
Uh,
the Sunshine Gang.
oh, I like Sunshine Gang. That's nice.
I guess because it's California, so you go Hollywood, so they're all sort of Hollywoody.
So it just sounds sort of vaguely fascist though as well. The order.
Yeah, like New World Order.
Yeah. I mean,
And
and I
they
guess that's sort of the point of the initiative thing, isn't it? The idea is it ultimately it isn't a success. But
it does all fall apart because,
yeah.
well, I guess we'll find this out when we do the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
And that stuff I love. That's great.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah.
yeah, I should probably point out this is the low point of a really good, or from what I remember, maybe when we reread them, I won't think so, but 10-year-ish stretch with Bendis and Miller and various other people, ups and
Yeah.
downs, but creating this almost one big Marvel story.
Yeah.
In the way the movies, those they had their phases, felt like that, sort of Civil War, then went to Secret Invasion, to Dark Reign, to see, it felt great, didn't it, at the time? What are they going to do next? And the stakes felt real. So I definitely recommend everyone read those, but this, it's just not worth your time, is it? It's just, I wanted it to be okay. And Barry Kitson draws it, who I like from, I think he used to, did he used to do Anderson and stuff?
He used to do, he did a run on Superman that I really liked. That was when I first remember seeing him, and I really liked his Superman stuff because he does that. He's got that nice sort of clean, square jaw type
very
stuff
clean
for Superman. It works for that. But I thought he was quite dull in this. I normally like his stuff.
Yeah,
sort of unexceptional.
You'd put him in the sort of Dave Gibbons camp, wouldn't you? Like,
yeah,
Watchmen. He's that kind of artist, but in the way Dave Gibbons in Watchmen somehow managed to do a quite dull conversation, not dull conversation, it's the best writing ever, but what is just people talking to each other for 5 pages somehow seems to make it really fun. This just makes it such a chore.
Yeah. There wasn't anything exciting particularly in a lot of this at all. I just found it, I kept thinking, there's lots of times where I was like, this is a nice idea, and then you've sort of throwing it away and not really doing anything with it.
But I don't think the idea works because the celebrities.
Oh no, not overall. Every now and then there'd be something where I was like, oh, I quite like that. Like there was the idea of at one point there's a Russian supervillain that has a bomb in him that's being controlled by 4 people in suspension, and one of the order is tasked to kill them to deactivate the bomb in order to save millions.
Right.
But you can't do it, and so one of the others has to do it. And that's like an interesting idea, but the way they did it just didn't really come across that.
Is it Calamity can't do it?
Yeah, Calamity can't do it. So
it's the kind of thing where if how as horrendous comic loving nerds, there's a little part of us always wants our wives and girlfriends or boyfriends or husbands or friends, I mean potentially the whole point of me doing this podcast, to also get into it and feel the same way. I guess it's almost like religious people, like, I want you to understand this magic that I have felt in my heart, and then this is the kind of thing where they'll read it and go, it's exactly what I thought it was. It's boring. It's stupid. It doesn't make sense. It's for kids. It's trying to be cleverer than it is. And you're like, no, there's so much more out there,
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah. I was like,
and he's throwing everything. He's like got zombie robots, dinosaurs, Namor turns up.
Yeah. And that's
everything that goes through the Order sausage machine comes out really beige.
Yeah.
Anything you put into this idea doesn't work.
Yeah, and the bit with Namor I thought was, like, again, it almost worked, and then the payoff to that sequence didn't. It was like, oh, I see what you've tried to do, and I don't feel like you really did it.
What was the payoff? I like the bit where the tidal wave appears.
Yeah,
and then it just stops. Why is it just stopped? It's Namor. That was fun.
And then he has a big conversation with Anthem, who he's decided to go to because he doesn't want to go to someone high profile like Tony Stark, because the attention will be on Tony Stark. So he's chosen someone who's a bit of a loser so that the focus will be on Namor. I quite liked that. And then he has this whole discussion around, how his people have been terrorized by the surface world, and is what he's doing an act of terror or retaliation? It's quite an interesting discussion. And then it ends with Anthem just saying, "Ah, well, you asked me not to record all this. It turns out my powers meant that I could record it without you knowing, and so I've got a recording of everything you've said." But I was like, I don't think everything he said is anything he'd be worried about saying in public anyway. So I didn't really get the whole, okay, I'll
stuff
stop
he
then
said
because you've
before,
recorded
isn't
me.
it?
Yeah. And I was like,
Is that-
okay, I'll stop because you've recorded me. I was like, but it's stuff he would just say anyway. So I didn't
So
really feel the payoff actually worked. It was like a
they
nice
did the
opening.
old Batman Returns penguin. I played the city like a harp from hell.
Yeah.
But to
But without actually anything. Oh,
Namor, who doesn't
my
little
microphone
malfunction there.
Yeah, knocked my
Namor,
microphone
who
over.
doesn't have any. You were getting so heated about the order
Yeah.
there. But Namor has no care about what the surface people think
Yeah.
about him.
Exactly. So the idea that a recording of what he said would make him suddenly back down and change his mind didn't really work, because it was a shame, because what he was doing was getting interesting and I was getting into it, and then that happened and I was like, oh, but I don't. Oh, you wanted to do that as the way to end it, but I don't think you actually pulled that off.
So Anthem does have some sound-based quality to his powers. He can't blast out Bohemian Rhapsody, but he could record it.
No, I think it was because he took the batteries out of the recording device, but his electrical power meant he could still keep the recording device going.
Oh, how very tedious. So
yeah.
I feel like we haven't explained the order enough. I guess it comes across, but one thing to say is they are kind of they all live in this building, apparently. They're all, so there's other ones who are like in training. They get given a thing called Soma. Was it Soma? Which isn't really talked about, which I guess is like, again, like The Boys. I don't know if that had come out by this point, but that was like Compound V, isn't it? Where all superheroes are just made by giving them this drug, basically.
Yeah.
But in this, the Soma thing doesn't, it works for a year and then your body can't take it, so you have to stop.
Yeah.
All ideas that don't make for good stories. It'd be like, well, yeah, but we really like, say, for example, you go, well, we love that character. I can't think of any here, but say you love that character. Oh, but we have to stop in a year. Okay. But it's not even like, you know, Suicide Squad, you got a bomb in your head, and if you go way too far or you go against Amanda Waller, she'll blow you up. It's just like, yeah, in a year, you better stop. Okay.
Otherwise,
all the ideas are boring. Okay. So then we've got, God, I sound like the awful MP, Nadine Dorries, ex-MP there. I went, it's boring. I always remember this bit where they're in the House of Commons and she's just looking at Keir Starmer. This is when he was still the opposition, shouting, boring, you're boring. Like that's everything that's wrong with modern politics, isn't it, basically? Anyway, so we've sort of covered three of the characters, Anthem, Calamity, and Veda. Oh, that one thing you said there, Anthem, we say like he's kind of, Namor's come to him because he's kind of a loser. But he's never really a loser.
no.
It's like Peter Parker's a loser and it's really funny and it helps the character and it helps the plot and you're rooting for him. Anthem doesn't, apart from being an alcoholic, but then like you say, that doesn't, he never actually, I don't think he ever gives in and has a drink even or anything like that. So
No, he doesn't. No.
Okay, so there you go. So Supernaut and Mulholland Black. Let's talk about those briefly. Supernaut, I think, is my favorite of these characters. Because Supernaut is he's a Marine who was in that's another really weird, annoying thing he does. Sorry, I gotta say. In every episode, in every issue for each character, he puts 3 quotes on the first or on the third page. It's always on the third page. Like real quotes from like Mark Twain. Supernaut has one from Ronald Reagan. And it's always 3 quotes, and they're always like, in the way Watchmen, again, is so good at putting one quote at the end of the whole thing, and it just is ironic and clever and is sort of works on more than one level. This is like, I'm just going to put 3 quotes, all of which kind of vaguely connect to the character, but aren't even very good quotes. Some of them are just like something someone said in an interview or something.
They're sort of trying to hammer the point home that they've just made in that talking head interview, but I started skipping them. I just didn't read them after a while. I got
He's
bored.
just throwing everything in, isn't he?
Yeah. There's a lot of if I throw enough at the wall, something will stick.
Like he's even got the building's going to be up for sale.
Yeah.
Or these people are trying to buy the building, which is classic kind of Fantastic Four problem. But you don't care. But this problem is they're a government sanctioned group, so they just get another building, presumably.
Yeah, it's
Some
the
like this committee saying you can't use the building because it's
the city council are trying to take it away because it's a heritage site. So then Tony Stark just buys them another building because he's Tony Stark and he's a billionaire. I'm like, right, okay, well that's
terrible.
That
Right, Supernaut was a Marine. He was in what was clearly meant to be Black Hawk Down.
Yeah,
which I've never seen that film, but he was
no,
in the Somalian Civil War, does some kind of rescue operation. I think, was it Somalia? Was Somalia, wasn't it? And he ends up, but he's so angry by the Hollywood film that comes out about it, which is clearly meant to be Black Hawk Down, that he becomes a real anti-war protester, protesting against the government. And this is where I thought was quite interesting, a line which I thought, oh, that's very daring for a comic book at the time, where he says something about being a soldier and a hero, and he says the former doesn't necessarily mean the latter.
Yeah,
I thought, bloody hell, that's you struggle getting away with saying that these days, wouldn't you? That every single soldier isn't necessarily a hero. And then he says that's the reason why they turned on me, or something, and he gets shot. He gets shot in the back at a protest. Yeah. I mean, it is just like everything shoved in it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I
found the line you're talking about. He says, "In my estimation, sir, heroes and soldiers aren't the same thing. Being the latter is no guarantee of the former. Some people thought that made me a traitor. I got shot through the spine."
So see, I thought that was quite an exciting, that's Watchmen level controversial potentially. Obviously went completely under the radar. Because anyway, he decides to join the team, and because he's paraplegic, they put him in a big suit, and he's the kind of quite tropey character of a big Ed 209 type. But what's his power? Is it?
I couldn't work that out. It just seems to be that they've just put him in a suit. I didn't get that he had a specific power, because when they open up when the suit sort of freezes during an operation and he has to sort of open it up to continue the fight, he's just got a couple of guns and shoots the person instead. So he doesn't seem to have any particular power other than, strong willpower and fortitude later on when he has to drag himself and someone else around without the suit.
Yeah. Yeah, Semper Fi, he says all things like that. So he's still very into the Marines.
Yeah.
But he's not into them making films that aren't accurate about the Marines. That's his specific.
I think he says something, he makes a distinction around, he still believes in fighting for his country, because obviously in an American comic you cannot go against sort of patriotism, that would be too far. But he does say he doesn't necessarily believe the government always represents that. So he's not against his country, he's against governments he disagrees with.
Again, quite libertarian type ideas that now are quite scary, but back then felt like, screw you suits. I mean, now it's like, no, can we have all the suits back doing the stuff they used to do, please?
We need the suits.
Probably some of our listeners are, the other way, and that's fine. So finally, Mulholland Black clearly ripped off Manchester Black and Jack Hawksmoor. Two characters who Manchester. So this is so many levels here, because but not in a good way. Manchester Black was a character in Superman of a group called the Elite, who were a spoof of a group called the Authority, which we talked about earlier. So that's, I assume, where they've got the Mulholland Black, Manchester Black thing from. But I mean, that's a direct rip-off, isn't it? So you'd have to say that's a parody, but what is it a parody of? Unless they were all doing it to each other at the time and that was some in-joke, I don't know. And then she's got the powers of Jack Hawksmoor, who's a character has a very cool power to, he sort of connects to cities and can make but he can like make a fist appear out of pavement or something.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm making it sound less cool than they make it sound in the comic. But she just draws energy from LA.
yeah. Hers is slightly different. It's like it generates some sort of energy by her being connected to the city. Still slightly vague.
Vague
Vague.
energy.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because Jack Hawksmoor kind of talks to the city, doesn't he? And it's
yeah,
like the city has we don't, all cities have a spirit, which
yeah,
is a very, sort of Vertigo type idea,
yeah. And he can
90s type
convince
idea.
he can convince the city to do things for him. So that's like you were saying, if he wants it to
Yeah.
manifest out of a pavement, he can talk to the city and ask it to do that for him.
I think she can just make her hammer electric.
Yeah. So she's like a human USB cable plugging into the city,
Yeah.
plugging her hammer into the city.
Oh, that makes me think how at the time it references all those things which now we're sick of and want to get rid of, i.e., mobile phones.
Yeah.
I don't know if social media's even. It must have been around by that point.
This was
But
what,
all those things.
2005,
But
6? Yeah, early day. It would have probably still been MySpace back then.
wow, and the Nadia of this is one of the characters has a Bluetooth sword. Did you see that? She has a. Also, what's really funny is, like they're all meant to be celebrities, and one's a singer and one's an actor, and that she is a celebrity swordswoman.
Yeah, we get a lot of those.
I'm not sure
They're
that's.
big in
I assume they
2006.
mean a Olympic fencer. I assume they mean, but still, I don't think they're that famous. Anyway, but she has a Bluetooth sword. What does that mean?
It means she can connect it to a monitor. I don't know.
I missed that bit that he uses his powers to make it look like to take the batteries out of a recorder, but then
Yeah.
use his power to make it work without the batteries. That's the
Yeah.
lamest thing I've ever heard.
It's the most mundane use of a superpower ever.
Again, it's just getting it slightly wrong. Because if that was a Mark Miller, Peter Milligan, Grant Morrison thing, that would potentially be funny.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. But it doesn't feel like it's played for laughs. It's just he's sort of bragging about the fact that his power has enabled him to start a dictaphone.
As my dad would say, use your finger like everyone else.
Here we go.
Hey, classic gag. Right. So, and Mulholland Black, just to give you her backstory, she's kind of, they're trying to make her the black sheep of the family. She was in a violent girl gang. And there's one bit where she says, we had fun. We did this, or someone to hang out, as a group, we were someone to hang out with, someone to have fun with, someone to L-O, as in she's about to say love. And I was like, oh, okay, so they're all girls. She's in love. She's a lesbian, but they can't say she's in love with them because it's a Marvel comic, presumably. But then the next scene is she's in bed with a woman.
Yeah, and they do.
So that was a weird choice.
They do make it clear in a later issue as well, because she gets captured by the gang she was part of, and one of them talks about being cheated on by Mulholland Black. So they do make it quite explicit.
Yeah.
They were a couple.
I mean, Matt Fraction, in a way, you've got to hand it to him. He's happily talking about anyone and every sort of culture and minority and sexuality with a degree of confidence.
Yeah, that's why I say I think it's like laudable, the attempt in what he's trying to do. It's just sort of clunky and ham-fisted a lot of the time.
It's surface, isn't it? It's like, oh, that's a bit edgy. We'll make her a lesbian, but without in any way. Yeah, so they're a girl group of lesbians, so they've obviously all got to be violent and have knives, which again is a kind of taken off Sin City in a way, isn't it? So everything in this is pulled from somewhere else, and then kind of.
I think the only thing he missed was like making them a roller derby team. That's about the only box thing.
I did like, but it shows you the girl gang used to go around. Like there's a bit where a guy's hung up with a clown face stuck on him and pimp written on him. So do you know what? I'd rather read that comic. Be
Yeah,
quite
I know what you
funny.
mean. There's
I'm
that's
not sure
I guess
he's qualified to write it,
no.
but yeah.
I think that's the thing. There's just lots of interesting stuff in there that gets sort of glossed over, or it just doesn't
Mm.
really explore, or it just does it in a very awkward way.
Order, you were riddled with potential, a
Yeah.
jigsaw, more patchwork than Frankenstein's monster himself. That was the order. Wow. Now we need to put them in our own order. Before we do that, Nick, very succinctly, because I've got to go in a minute. What? How does it end? Because I didn't get to the end. I'm afraid. Do they all
It
die?
it ends with I did read the end, and now I'm trying to remember what happens. It ends with basically them officially being disbanded,
Cool.
but unofficially just being. And I hadn't quite picked up on this, but at the end he says, "Well, you weren't really part of the initiative. You were a sort of social experiment, but the social experiment's over, and we're just folding you properly into the initiative." I was like, "Oh, I thought they were part of the initiative anyway." It turns out they weren't, but now they are. The
Wow.
end. The end.
Okay. So the thing. What? So the ending is the twist is the thing you thought was always happening wasn't really always happening, but now is.
Yeah, I think it wasn't clear from the first issue maybe that they weren't like a proper initiative team. They were an experiment, and they decided the experiment's over, but they're just going to make them a regular initiative team. So, oh, okay.
Absolute dross. Shame on you, Matt Fraction. But we get it. You were a very young writer trying to find your way through the comics industry. Good luck to you, matey. Can't wait to
And we,
read your Hawkeye.
yeah, I was
But
going to say we let you off for Hawkeye because that's great.
totally, totally. So where do we put them? First of all, should we just shove them all together?
Yeah,
As
I
a
think just
group,
stick them down
I
as the order.
think as a group, does it go below Alpha Flight? I think it's got to, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an Alpha Flight fan, but Alpha Flight are better than that.
I'm more of an Alpha Flight than they came out. Jamie was very anti Alpha Flight. Anyway,
I'm not anti, but yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a fan.
so as characters, they're not awful, are they? Do we put them like below? So on the list, I'm looking towards the bottom. All right, are they? They're worse than Angela, should we say? They're worse than Dracula.
Yeah,
Are they worse than Dracula? Yeah.
yeah, I think they go below Dracula.
Do they go above? Right, when we get to the real dross, we're like Anel, Airwalker, A Bomb, Achilles. Are they that level? Maybe they are.
Mm,
But they are. There is an attempt at a character here, but
There's
they're all just so undeveloped
yeah,
and surface. Even though it's
yeah.
so weird because he's put in so much character and he's put in so much twist and like but also this, but somehow they're just like I never want to see them ever again.
I think it's like you said though. It's all backstory and it hasn't translated into character.
Right. Oh, I guess that's the thing in a way because their story is also finished within that first episode.
Yeah,
So with Veda, it's like, oh, and I can never be a mum, so I only want to look after orphans or whatever the thing is, and my stone golems. So there's nowhere to go now. Do you know what I mean?
no, yeah.
Like,
I know what you mean. She's not aiming for anything. That she's happy doing that.
and also, what if someone who couldn't have children, so she helps orphans and makes stone golems, meets a man in a robot suit? There's no, it's not like sparks are gonna fly. Anyway, so I don't know, Nick, I'm gonna leave it completely up to you. What do you say? Have you got the order
Uh,
up there?
I haven't got it in front of me now.
Okay, well, Dracula is number 30. It's
Right.
then Angel, the original Angel, Thomas
Yes.
Holloway, who just fights six big men.
Yeah.
He's just got a tash and fists, but I prefer him.
Yeah, I think I think maybe below him then.
What about Frankenstein? We thought that was a real shame how they didn't do anything
Yeah.
with Frankenstein, but
I think it's because I think this is like missed opportunity section. I think both the Order and Frankenstein are like missed opportunities.
okay.
Got
Shall I put
something in
them?
them. So
are they better than Agent Zero? Agent Zero is a kind of a weird one because that's actually Maverick, but he becomes Agent Zero for a bit. I'm going to put them below Agent Zero, above Anel.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
And then we're into the real dross.
Yeah.
Okay, so should we just put them all together, but in an order? So who was your number one? I'm going to say Supernaut. Do you agree?
Yes.
Do you agree?
I do agree.
Number two?
I think I've come around a little bit on Mulholland Black.
Yeah, sure. She's got a kind of Harley Quinn look and feel.
Yeah.
Obviously nowhere near as good, but yeah. And a bit like Crazy Jane, actually, from Doom Patrol. There's a bit of that going on. And
yeah, slightly.
What's she going to do? Not much. Not much. Okay. I think then Veda.
Yeah.
Then
Calamity.
Anthem's, yeah.
I think
Anthem's real name was Henry Hellstrung as well, which is mad. No one's called Henry Hellstrung. Also, unless you're, the son of Satan or someone like that. But you can't be called a Henry Hellstrom. There we go. Okay, so they're all shoved together. Believe that. So 38 to 42 on the list. Nick, it's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure to be here.
This is one of the highlights of my week, as you know. We'll be back next week. Shall we dive in and do Captain America? I know it's not on the list at the minute.
Yeah, why not?
In honor of this movie, because I thought Thunderbolts came out first, but it's actually Captain America Brave New World. So we should do that before it comes out. Also, it sounds like it's going to be very bad. So let's try and get the listeners while people are still interested in it. But that, who knows? That could just be haters.
Could be.
I read some of the Falcon as Captain America, and everyone's like, no one's going to tell me he's my Captain America and all this stuff. But I read the ones Who Wields the Shield, which I guess we'll talk about. Really good. Have you read those ones with the AmeriCops?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God. And that's where America's at the minute, isn't it? So that's very exciting. Yeah. I love those. So what we'll do is we'll do Steve Rogers, Captain America, boom, and then we'll add one or two Sam Wilson, Captain America, and then we'll do Falcon as Falcon another time when we're doing bird-based characters, of which we have him, Beak, and Birdman. The birdies. Lovely. Don't forget, patreon.com/abombtozzzax. Join us. You can be part of the conversation. At some point, I'm going to create an email account for this so that people can send us their thoughts. Please, 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 if you're listening, I beg of you, send us any information, as in rate it, review it, like it, say what you think. If you hate it, let us know, because we're in the dark here. We're having loads of good fun. But I'd love it to be kind of interactive. Maybe I don't. Maybe I just want to see my friends once a week and tell them. It's basically like my stimming, I think. It's literally my stimming. All right. Great, man. Really good to see you. And let's catch up soon.
You too. Thanks, everyone.
Take care, brother. Bye. Thank you.
You have been listening to abombtozzzax, my favorite Marvel character, with me, Colin Hoult, and my friends Dan Snellgrove and Jamie Firth. There they go! Please remember to support us at patreon.com/abombtozzzax.